Great, good deal. All right, I'm going to deal with these, and then we can open up the floor for anything else that's going on. And when is an agent going behind the sign to talk with the other party? Anybody thought they were doing this or had it done to them? Um, because it does happen. So this is Article 16. Came up this week with one of our agents who's like, I've got a client who has someone else that it was an interesting situation, and I don't think I'm revealing anything. So it was the client has been a landlord client for our agent, but has referred it to another guy to do the property management. And like two or three times they've had this arrangement, and then this time for some reason they went to go on market. So he reached out to the agent. Okay, great. Thanks for letting me know. I'll get it on there. And the guy says, well, no, I have a listing agreement with them. So nothing in writing. And I said, well, or he says, I'll be listing it. So the proviso there was, I'll be listing it, which means there was no listing in hand. So his question was, am I going behind the sign if I call the client? I said, well, have you seen such listing? Have you called the client and found out there is a listing? And did he tell you when the time and date was going to be on the listing? And the answer was like, I don't know. I said, then right now, because you have this previous arrangement with the client before, you can call them and see what's going on. And then if they say, oh, yeah, we're going to go with Bob, then Bob has the listing and you got to back up. Um, but typically you can't go around the sign. If the agent is not responding, then you can say, all right, I'm going to go to the broker to find out if there's something there. But the realtor must provide a listing date, the deadline, what I'm doing there. Same thing for buyers and tenants. If you ask for it, they're supposed to give it to you, and then you are able to work with them. Because let's say someone's got a home up for listing for rent, and that they have a listing agreement to rent the property. You can go get another listing agreement with that same owner to sell. So you have not gone around the sign if you've gone to that owner and said, hey, I see you're up for rent. That's great. Hopefully I can help you, but do you want to sell your property? And do you have an agreement with them on that? No, I don't, but I would like to sell it. That's a great idea. You can get a listing agreement to sell it. So now you have one for one service and you have a listing agreement for another service. Okay. Any questions on that yet? So past clients, not your clients, by the way. So they're not. So you can, my client did, oh, you have an agreement? No, I don't have an agreement. So you have a past client who has now registered with someone else. That agent has not gone around you to get to that. He just marketed better is what's going on. And if you do have an agreement or an agent does have an agreement, you can't induce them to drop you and go or drop them and go with you. That you can't get them to cancel the exclusive contractual agreement. I know this happens. I've had agents call me and say, look at the verbiage they've got in this email. I don't know how they would know to ask for these forms. And they wouldn't. They wouldn't know to ask for a notice of a notice of brokerage relationship voiding. They wouldn't know to ask for a release of the brokerage. They don't know these forms exist unless you've had a discussion with them. So you're not supposed to do that. We know it does happen because sometimes a client or a seller or a buyer will call another agent and say, I don't like what's going on here and I want to can this person. Has anyone had that happen? You had someone call you and they want to list with you or work with you. Yeah. And when they do that, you want to be helpful. And so I get it where you say, well, I think the key is like, did I induce them to do it? And if I did not induce them to do it, then I think you're in the clear because you're just giving them some guidance on what to do. When agents come to me upset about this, I'll say, well, have you been doing your job? Is there any other reason that they would not be wanting to work? Well, we've had a little bit of conflict. I'm like, okay. I said, you want to stick it to the ground and say, no, I will not let it go. then we'll let them know that we're not letting it go. It's a legally binding agreement. We'll keep selling it, try to sell it. But that seller could then turn around and say, make it so challenging to get people in the door, reject every offer. It just depends on what's happening with that relationship. So if they're going down that road, they've already made up their mind. I don't know that you can save it. And it's best to just, you know, let that go and move along to the next one. I know that can sound a little passive, but after 30 years, I'm like, pfft, it's there's too many people that do want to work with you to do that. Any comments on that? No comentos. Okay, got it. All right. And
Well,
then,
I will just, can I
yes.
add one thing is that I actually just had a buyer um tell me that our relationship has run its course when I probably have put 75 to 100 hours of work
Mhm.
into helping her find something over the course of the last 18 months.
Yeah.
And I was like, had steam coming out of my ears. But once I got over that and, kind of talked to a few people about it, I realized actually there's quite a large weight off my shoulders now
Mhm.
because she was a complete PETA. So, yeah.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
sometimes, like they say, things happen for a reason. And I really actually do think it's for the best.
Yeah. I agree. That's where I go. I'm not gonna my pathway when I'm got my realtor hat on, I'm not gonna waste time to try to convince someone to work with me who's decided they don't want to work with me. Something else is working with the other client and we'll see what happens. So I move along on that one. Good one. All right. What can be done when the seller's subsidy exceeds the actual closing cost? I like this question, and there's a lot that can be done. It's really great. You negotiated really well. You got $20,000 in closing cost subsidy, and then you get out there and you find out there's only 15,000. Okay? So, I did a video on this, believe it or not. There's the video. You can click it sometime if you want. It's on my website or my YouTube channel, which is what's my YouTube channel?
TV.
AnthonyCarTV.com.
Thank you. Or just Anthony Car TV. Yeah,
Yeah.
at Anthony Car TV. So this one is don't sell your house, sell the deal. And so that's what this video was about. And here's the high points of it. Work around the closing costs. Maybe you can create more closing costs. And that's what these next slides are going to be about. So I love this seller credit. It's points. And it's because it's the credit that keeps on giving. So let's say that they're getting a loan for $500,000. You pay a point. The seller pays a point for $5,000. So let's say you've gone through all of your closing costs and it's $16,000 and they can pay an additional $4,000 for a point, and then maybe the buyer puts in a point as well. But the way it keeps on going is how? How does it keep on? How does that selling credit keep on giving?
Well, in my case, we asked the seller to lower the price by whatever difference was.
Mm-hmm.
It was hard to explain it to the seller, but we end up closing. They lowered $5,000,
Was
so
that a
that
cash deal?
no, it was not a cash deal.
Yeah.
So we become over the limit.
Mm-hmm.
Then we went back, asked the
Mm-hmm.
seller to reduce by 5,000, and we calculated and then show them that the seller is going to need the same amount.
Yeah.
It took them a week to sign. It's like they feel like they're reducing 5,000, but
Yeah.
end up signing it. So
Right. And what I think you're talking about there is you already had an agreement for a certain dollar amount. And for in their mind, it was like, oh, I'm losing $5,000. No,
yes,
your net's going to be the same.
yeah.
We're just getting your money a different way. So that's one way to do it is to just keep reduce that price.
So for us,
It's still a that still brings the credit down for the seller. What I like about the point is that it's cash out of the seller's pocket.
plus it's a lower rate, so they're paying less
Yes,
per month. So that's why it keeps giving.
that's how it keeps on giving over the next several years. So let's say it goes down a quarter point. Let's say a quarter point equals out to, I don't know, guys, I'm going to say $100. You got $1,200 a year that buyer is now benefiting from because they dropped that interest rate. The seller's still giving up what they agreed to give up, so it's no skin off their teeth. But the seller credit, if they don't have points, see what you can do with the lender. Well, how many more points can we add on? Because those are closing costs. Okay, those are bona fide closing costs that can be paid. Now, when you run out of a little bit more on that closing costs, how that works, they are deductible. The buyer can deduct these, even though the seller is paying for it at closing, and that's only for people though that are itemizing. Sometimes the standard deduction is more than the itemization, but if they can deduct that. If the seller pays for points on behalf of the buyer can deduct those points, provided certain conditions are met. They have to talk with their accountant. The seller cannot deduct the points that they've paid for them, but it will reduce their gain if there's any tax liability there. Okay. Now, another way to get any other questions on the points? No. Okay. So another way to eat up that credit is that it's a sell. So that might be also let's back up to when you're giving the credit. Seller will provide a credit of, I would not necessarily say a credit for closing costs. Okay. I would say a seller will provide a credit to buyer of. All right. Why would I take out that last phrase of closing costs?
So you can apply it to anything.
Yeah. See, on this screen, if I don't say closing costs, because the closing costs kind of shuts down what the seller can do. Well, you said closing costs. Well, I want you to pay for a moving company to move me in. Well, that's not closing costs, so I don't have to pay it. But if I need to eat that up, I could say, well, we're running out of the closing cost. We're running out of closing cost credit. We still have more credit left. Not closing cost credit, seller credit. And the words matter when you start talking about stuff like this. So keep that in mind. So moving company, get an appliance package from Home Depot or something like that. Landscaping, HOA fees. What you do is that the seller is going to pay these on the seller side of the ALTA. And so it's a seller expense and it does benefit the buyer, but the lender doesn't look at it as, oh, okay, the buyer's getting more money. It's looking at, oh, there's a moving cost expense that's coming out of the closing cost that the seller's paying for. Okay, they're moving it. But these are ways to ramp up some of that credit to be paid on behalf of the buyer by the seller. Also, in this video, it's not really about what do I do when I've had too much credit and my costs are gone. It was more about why can't I get my house to move in a slow market? And this is what you do. So you would say, hey, it's $725,000 plus the seller will move you in for free. And so the seller's paying for their moving costs. There's a benefit there. The seller will put in brand new appliances. Once we get past the financing contingency, they'll give you a gift card for seller appliances, but the seller goes and buys it. The seller will prepay landscaping for the backyard or whatever, or we'll redo the whole landscaping, but we'll pay, Bob's landscaping, a credit. Then you go to Bob and then Bob does the work to eat up that credit. So in essence, you're putting things on that ALTA for the seller, but when they pay it, it's going to remain there for the buyer. So these are ways that you can do that. I'm not sure who brought up that question, but it was really good.
I have a
The
question.
invoices. Yeah, go ahead, Marty.
So I'm still a little confused. If you word it that way, seller will credit buyer whatever amount at closing, are you saying that that won't be something that the lender will say is too much, or like that doesn't
I get what
Yeah,
you're saying.
we
So
we
what
just had
we're-
this situation.
Yeah, how did it happen, Emma? What'd y'all do?
This is what I was emailing you about, Anthony, if you remember.
Oh yeah, okay. So
Well, just
what?
like, go ahead. Sorry.
So what you're doing is you're not having an addendum that says the seller's going to pay for moving costs. You have an agreement. you get a bid from the moving company, it shows up to the title company, and the seller has to pay it because it's an invoice that they have on their side of the table. You could put in there seller to pay for moving costs at buyer's selection. You could do that. If it's an issue for the lender, then I would just have them submit an invoice to the table and make sure the title company is there. And then it's kind of everyone's agreeing that they're going to pay for that moving cost. So that invoice from moving company or an invoice from the landscaper or an invoice from the HOA, or not necessarily the HOA, but you're putting these fees on the ALTA for the seller to pay on the seller side of the ALTA. So it's not a buyer expense, it's a seller expense. Because the lender's concerned about how much money is coming out of the buyer's pocket when they're getting into this property. Are they going to have the reserves to be able to pay the next few payments? That's what the lender's looking at. If this is paid for by the seller, it's not affecting the buyer. But you may have to increase the, that's why I like the points on closing costs. And again, you need to talk with your lender to see, hey, this is what we're going to do. The seller's going to pay, Dan's moving van lines, an invoice. Do you have a problem with that? Most lenders will say, no, that's their bill. So you just have to have that written in there. Does that make sense now?
Where do you write it? I guess that's what I'm trying to figure out. Where
You get Dan's van line to send an invoice to Mr. and Mrs. Smith, and Mr. and Mrs. Smith have that invoice at the title table, at the table, and they pay.
Where do you first agree to it?
For us, we have to put it on a separate addendum, and then everybody signed it, but it does not get sent to the lender.
Okay.
So
that's how they
quote
did
unquote, they are unaware.
Yeah. So you still could do an addendum there. They sign it. It goes back to them. And so now the seller is responsible for paying that invoice at the table that everyone agreed to. I think we had one come up where the seller didn't get things done per the home inspection. And so the seller was going to say, I'll get it done after closing. So we submitted an invoice with an addendum from a certain electric company that the buyer selected. And so the seller is paying for it on their side of the ALTA. That's the key, is that they're paying for it on their side. Because you will run out of closing cost room on a buyer side. There's nothing else to pay. But if they really want that extra money, it could be $1,000, $5,000 or whatever, and they want that credit. They don't. It used to be many, many years ago, they got a check at the table, believe it or not, and they walked away with that money, and that was what set us up with 2008 with The Big Short, and then they said you can't do that anymore. If you run out of credits, the seller gets the money back. So these are ways to increase those credit dollars for the seller to pay for, but they're not closing cost credits. They're invoices from a third party vendor that the buyer may have chosen. Okay. All right. What's the difference between a home inspection to void only and a home inspection for info purposes only? I'm going to throw that out to the crowd first. What's the difference between those two?
Honestly, nothing, because after they say info only, they will come back and then try to negotiate. So
one gives the contractual right to void the contract, the other one does not.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, even if they want to negotiate, it doesn't allow them to back out with info.
Right. Right. And void only means all they can do is void. Information only means I'm going to closing, but I want to see what kind of, what's going on with this basket of eggs here. How many of them are cracked? So here's what I got here. It's under the property maintenance and condition paragraph on the front page as far as information only. If it's information only, you're not doing a home inspection addendum. So this is paragraph 9. And as you can see, it's saying, however, if checked, seller will provide broker, buyer, and licensed professional, insured inspectors retained by the buyer reasonable access to property to conduct home inspections and or other inspections of property beginning on and ending on. So a couple of things that can happen here is the reason you have a blank there is you have got to get, so I got a dinging going on here I'm going to get rid of. You have to get past a certain deadline. So I had one once where I was the buyer, information purposes only. We're going to look at it, but we're not going to void. And the listing agent, I thought clever. He says, great. And they didn't put dates in here. They put in here, once HOA documents have been reviewed. Once the HOA review period is complete, you can do your home inspection. I thought that was pretty clever. I thought,
Yeah,
oh,
otherwise it's a backdoor home inspection
yeah.
contingency.
Yeah, and I told the agent, I said, "Man, that's pretty clever." We've known each other for years. He goes, "Yeah, I started doing that." So it's locking the buyer into this certain time period. He wrote it as a narrative. Once property owner association documents are reviewed, I would have probably redone that. Said, "I get what we want to do here. You don't want them to inspect and get out on HOA docs. However, you need to provide the HOA docs in a timely manner." So next time, if this came up, I would say, we will do that, but here's the date. It just means you get your documents to me now. Don't putz around, because I'm not going to wait till 2 days before closing and voila, the HOA documents show up and then we do a home inspection and we got nothing else to work on. But that is information. That is truly information purposes only. And early on, before we had this paragraph, agents would say information purposes only, and they would submit a home inspection addendum, and they'd scribble, it's for information purposes only. So that's information purposes only. This is void only. You actually use the home inspection radon testing addendum, because there's a section there for voiding. And it just says that the results of such inspection are unsatisfactory, in buyer's sole discretion, buyer will deliver to seller prior to home inspection an entire copy of the report and notice voiding contract. By the way, how many agents I have here from Maryland? Any Maryland people? All right. So I would just let you know, yesterday, an agent and I went through the Maryland contract. In Maryland, you don't have to supply the home inspection. Now, my fellow Maryland, if you know there's a line somewhere that says that, we couldn't find it. So in Maryland, you say, I'm out because of home inspection, and you do not have to supply the home inspection report. But in Maryland and Virginia, even if you're voiding only, you still got to you got to give them an entire copy of the report and a notice voiding contract. So that's void versus information only. And that's how. Any questions on that? Any follow-ups?
I just had a situation, Anthony, that they had no home inspection. That was not part of it. Then they asked a day before the HOA doc deadline. They asked about, could they bring a contractor in? They're going to be going out of town. Can they bring a contractor in because of the things they want to get started doing right after?
Yeah.
And I really debated, and I said to the agent, I said, my people want to be nice, but, this is not, you did not ask for a home inspection, and I don't want this to be used. Oh, no. So fortunately, we allowed them to do it, and they did have the deadline went past. So I was like, poof, okay. Then they come to me and say, okay, we noticed this at that this was, there was a humidifier on the HVAC.
Yeah.
And it's not connected. We noticed in the contractor visit, it's not connected and not functioning. Are you going to fix it? And I just responded and said, that was not in the listing. It was not part of the contract. My people didn't even know. They had never lived there. They're trustees. And I said, short answer is no.
Yeah.
And I mean, but I was not happy when I
Mhm.
first saw it. I was like, they clearly were using it as
Sure. Yeah.
so how would I guess my biggest question is you want to be nice, you want to be get along with like you want to make it a good situation for
Mhm.
everybody, but how do you just nicely say thank you, but no thank you? I mean,
Yeah, actually we run into that more than you might think. So it's true. So here's a few ways you can handle that. The way you did say, well, no, just no, they're not inclined to do that. It's an inheritance for them. They know it's got some hiccups, and you are competing, and you agreed to take on everything. Another one is, are we talking they've waived home inspection or something? Is that what we're talking
yeah,
about? Yeah,
yeah,
okay. So they waived home inspection. Now, in the front of the contract, in that paragraph, property maintenance and condition and inspections, I don't have it here, but it says, that paragraph where it talks about the property will be substantially same condition as of date of contract, home inspection, or other. Other could be the date of that you're moving in. It could be the 5 days before. So even though those folks waived it, if they had walked through and seen that it was hooked up when they wrote the contract, then they could demand to have it re-hooked up if it wasn't hooked up later. So that's where I would say if you guys are writing offers on properties and saying we're waiving it, I'd do one of two things. Walk around that property with your camera. I'd flush every toilet, check every sink, look for leaks, look for breaks look for cracks in the wall, whatever it is that you want so that this is the condition it was in. Check all the burners, turn on the dryer. I wouldn't turn on the washing machine or the dishwasher. I get it. It'd be nice to do that, but if there's something wrong and that water goes flying out, the new owner said this is the risk I was taking on, so I'll fix the water myself. But all those other items, turn on the faucets outside, run them through, and then if that's important to them, as you're ratifying the contract in an addendum, put a punch list together. I did this on a property where we waived the home inspection because they had lost 3 other contracts. And so we walked through with like our, cameras going and we found a list of like 8 things. And we said, look, we'll ratify no inspection, but we want these items addressed. And we got them. It included some roof work. And it included a dishwasher, verifying that the dishwasher is operational and working because they said it was, but the son had moved out who had inherited it from his mom, or they moved out to assisted living. The son had turned off the power source of the dishwasher. Don't know why. We opened it, whew, stunk to high heaven. And it just means it hadn't been run. And so he went back in there, turned it. They couldn't get the gas furnace to turn on, and we couldn't. And not the furnace, but the gas fireplace. And we agreed, you'll demonstrate that it's working, and if not, you'll fix it. And they agreed to that punch list. So we at least had a pre-agreed upon list of items that we wanted done, even though we were waiving the home inspection. So that's another way to do that. The one that you're talking about, it's a tough love kind of situation. Thanks, but no thanks. You said you were going to buy it this way. You knew that you were going to buy it as is, and that's where we're going to leave it. Sometimes I've heard sellers say, I'll look at that. We'll reconnect it, but if it doesn't work, we're going to leave it as is. And just tell them that. But don't put anything in writing if you don't want to be on the dime for fixing that. So if they just really want to let it go. And I've had some sellers like, okay, we'll look at that, and they'll fix a few things. And sometimes with my sellers, I'll say, look, I'm in your corner. Remember that. But remember, you just got $25,000 more than the other offer. And that's a couple of things. It's not even $1,000. If it were you, what would you want to have done? And they go, yeah, I'd probably want that fixed. I said, they're not asking for new windows. They're asking for the one that's broken to be fixed. They just paid, $775,000 for this property, and they're going to walk in and they don't want a broken window. I don't think you would either. And sometimes a seller doesn't know something's broken. Okay. Melanie, you had a question?
Yes, thank you. Sorry, I was trying to get off mute. Going back to the HOA docs and, kind of using that as an out, et cetera. So I am still unclear on, how that whole thing works and what would cause someone to want to get out of a deal based on HOA. I can understand with the condo. Like, I know lenders dive into condo docs, very closely, but with HOAs, I'm still not really understanding, what would cause a buyer to want to walk because of HOA. That's the first question.
Oh, okay.
Second,
all right. Anybody want to pick up on that? Have you ever had
assessment.
someone walk for a real reason? Yeah, go ahead.
Special assessment.
Special assessment's big.
Yes.
right.
And
But I thought that was
the biggest
Sorry,
thing about
go ahead.
HOA document review. It doesn't have to have anything to do with HOA. It's a free out. Somebody could decide to use that as an out that has nothing to do with the HOA.
No reason given, and it could be we found a different home that we like more than this one.
But they don't say that in the
They don't
void.
say
They
that.
just say
No, that's why I said no reason given.
don't like what we see.
Right.
Done.
That's it.
But a real reason would be like what Scott just said. Ooh, you got a special assessment. I tell people what you really want to look at is the budget. What's coming down the pike? Are they in the middle of a lawsuit? The lawsuit, if they lost and it's $100,000 reward or something, and now they're going to pass that on to all the agents, all the homeowners, that's really what you're looking for. The other would be they're getting HOA violations and the buyer just go like, this is a lot. What else have they not done? And this is just what the HOA caught. And so they're seeing there's a habit here of this homeowner not taking care of the property. I'm already taking it with no home inspection. This is what the HOA is dinging it. I just don't want to deal with that. I'm going to look for another property.
And remember the deal we did together where we didn't get the HOA docs until 3 days before closing, even though we emailed, called, blah, blah, blah. And then we come to find out he had it actually a month before we even wrote the contract.
Yeah.
So he was just sitting on it because he knew there were violations in there.
Yeah.
And, this couple that was buying this townhouse, they knew it was a little bit of a fixer-upper. They, some of the violations you could see on the outside, like screens had fallen off the windows and things like that. And they said, we're going to take it anyway. And, that's what they decided to do. They realized that they would then have to take on those violations themselves and have them remedied, but they were going to do work on it anyway.
We did get some more closing costs on that. I don't know how much it was. What would like $1,500 or something like that? I don't know. Yeah. So they got some more money at the table. Yeah, Melanie.
Okay, I'm sorry. So second part of that question is, do you typically put 3 or 7 days in that clause 8 that you want the documents by 3 days after ratification or 7 days after ratification?
You talking about the HOA review paragraph?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, for review, I'm 3 days, but I like longer for the buyer side because I want it taken care of quickly. Let's just get it done. What I would say, and I know in Maryland, what I like about Maryland is they give the seller a deadline to get it in. And if they never get it in, then the buyer at that point doesn't have to wait. They can void right away, which we can void right away whether we received it or not as well. But in seller world, in the Maryland world, they get an actual deadline. So, I've seen 7 days, 10 days. I think it's way too long. I like a little longer than 3 days because let's say we ratify Friday night and or I get the documents Friday night, not that we ratify, but I get the documents Friday afternoon, Friday night, and I've got 3 days. What HOA is open on Saturday and Sunday if something's missing? And remember how that paragraph and the law state, if it's incomplete, they've been delivered, whether the seller has everything there or not. I think that's kind of interesting. But the challenge is the seller does not have control of the association and what they're sending out. Laura?
Yes. The other thing is, in relations to the HOA docs, we're not really supposed to go over that and advise them in any way, correct?
Well, I think you can advise. I don't know about advise, but the challenge is they don't know what they're looking at.
Right.
Many times, especially if it's a first time buyer, they just don't know what they're looking at. And so I'll have them go over the financials and I'll look at the violations and then I'll talk to them about their lifestyle.
Right.
Say, well, do you have a work van? I mean, Montgomery Village in Maryland, you can't have a white truck parked outside. It needs to be red or tan or black or blue or something. You can't have a white truck sitting outside.
Right.
Even if you don't have a business, it's like, well, that's kind of what I did. I bought a white truck. Well, you can't have it sitting outside, and the HOA can enforce that. So they need to be able to look at that and determine, they have a boat. Are they allowed to have the boat out front, or do they have to have it in the drive, or do they have to have it covered? Those are the things that it's really about their lifestyle and what they're willing to live under as an HOA resident.
Yeah, because I just want to make sure that I don't go too far in because I know they're supposed to really read that, and I stress that to my clients. But in terms of the whole overall piece, I know that there's some rules about the HOA docs and what and how you are supposed to advise your client.
So Laura, I mean, if I can add something, I don't review, and I tell my clients, HOA documents are not for me to review. It's for you to review them and make sure you are okay to live in this community and obey the rules and regulations and whatnot. What I will check for is violations and any special assessments. Everything else is your responsibility to review. The moment, in my opinion, again, correct, anybody can correct me if I'm wrong. The moment you start telling them things that you read, they're relying on you to translate this whole package for them. And then they can
Right.
call you
Yeah.
to say, hey, well, you didn't tell us that you couldn't park a white truck.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So I tell them up front, I tell them at the consultation, when you receive the HOA documents, it will be a packet, a substantial packet that you have to review on your own. And I do tell them, I check for the HOA violations and any special assessments because that's a financial things for
that's
you
what I
to
did.
know.
Mhm,
But
mhm.
everything else is for you to decide whether or not you're okay with those rules and regulations and what you wanted to abide by. And if not, that is up to you, but you need to let me know in 72 hours.
Mhm.
And that's it. And I don't take any responsibility for it. My
Yeah, 'cause
responsibility
I
is
didn't want to take any
to deliver that.
responsibility either. Thank
Yeah.
you. Thank you. Yeah.
Scott, you got a point on that?
Actually, earlier point, but yeah, I agree wholeheartedly with what Anya just said. You don't want to put your, nose under the camel's tent by saying anything substantive about the contents of the resale docs. The point I was going to make is just from a listing agent perspective, the duration or the length of the HOA or condo review documents. Yeah, they can be whatever, but make sure from a listing perspective, they run concurrent with any home inspection period. Because you want the HOA or condo review period to be over before the inspection period is over or
Right.
concurrent with. So you don't give somebody extra days for a free out.
Yeah. On the seller side, I would advise you get your seller to order those immediately. And I really put the heat on them and said, look, you need to order it now. And I'll call them in 2 days. Did you order it? Oh, yeah, I got to get to that. I said, look, here's what you're going to do. You're going to order it so that we have it sitting here. And when you ratify, we're sending that over that night. And the deadline starts that night. So that if they've got a parallel home inspection going on or whatever, I'm getting that HOA out of the way. So that's what I advise my sellers to do. Get it. So it's going to be electronic mostly. Get it and put it in there. And now the law changed this last session where we don't have to have an address of a buyer or a name of a buyer to get those documents. Thankfully the legislature came in and said, "Nah, you can't hold this transaction hostage or the seller to want to be early on because they don't have a name of a buyer yet. They still need them."
So how do you fight that? Like I just had a situation, the condo association wouldn't let me, I couldn't order them.
Yeah, that's where
Tell me that
right. If you go to nvar.com, I'll look for that and send it out to everybody. It was just passed this last session or last year, I believe, and say, "Look, you're violating the law here. I don't think you want me to report you to the board. You need to send it over," and just send them that document. They'll see it. Well, that's not our policy. Well, your policy breaks the law now.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't say violates policy or violates the rules and regulations. It's breaking the law. Get over it. Yeah.
My rule is to tell all my sellers, because some sellers are signing documents months before they list it. I tell them, and I put it in the agreement, because in the agreement it says who's going to order it and when. I put 2 weeks before going active. And I explain it to them that the reason why I wanted to do that is because we want to have those HOA documents in hand when we're going on the market in case we were to ratify immediately, and that will avoid, long deadlines for the buyers to back out later, potentially after doing home inspection, maybe for info only or whatever else. We don't have the docs yet. And also, if there's any violations that come up, the sooner they know about it, the sooner they can remove them and start taking care of it before they actually have to send over a list of dirty laundry to the buyers to be like, oh, they were in violations of all these things.
That's a really good point because I have had it where some of these are not professionally managed and they got some guy just walking around inspecting homes according to the rule book and they will, well, I was out of town last week, so I finally got to it this week. I mean, that's kind of if they're not professionally done and the professionally done, not that they're any better, they sometimes they're backed up.
Yeah. And the other thing is that you don't want your sellers to order them too early because they do expire. I mean, some HOAs are only good for 60 and some are, I think, up to 90 days. And then you have to reorder them. If there's any changes to the budget or anything like that, you have to reorder the updated version, and it will cost the sellers, again, $50, $70, I don't know, depending on the HOA.
Right. And
Well,
if anything
actually,
does change, go ahead, Scott.
you don't have to reorder. It's because
You
whatever
ask for the update.
yeah, whatever you deliver to a buyer, that's delivered. Now the buyer may say, "Hey, these are out of date. They're 6 months old." But you're not obligated to reorder or get an update by a certain amount of time. You have HOA documents that you deliver. Now, I agree with you. I think it's just a better practice to have current or something that's within the last 3 months to avoid problems with somebody reviewing it.
Yeah, that's true. And the other challenge you have there is what they want an update. They can ask for the update, and this may be an argument to have a longer inspection period. Instead of 3 days, have it at 7 or however long you want it. The challenge will be is can I get a report back from the HOA? But the buyer's still on the dime to get it done by that deadline, even if they don't get an update. So,
Hey,
The
Ann.
other thing, just as a practice, I'm curious to how many people do it this way versus I tend to, well, and of course I'm focused mainly on communities that I know and that are professionally managed. So you're using, Associa's website. I typically am the person to order it and then include, because you have to pay up front now, include as the payee the address for the seller client. So I know that the ordering has been done and when it gets paid, rather than asking my client to order it and then they forget or whatever, and I have to keep beating them over the head. So that's just a way that I do it with, something is professionally managed and you're ordering on a website.
yeah. Chris, did you have a question, Chris Thomas?
Yeah. So if someone wants to order, I mean, what if you asked for the HOA docs before you went under contract, just to see what, the rules are and if there are special assessments and whatnot? Can you do that?
As the owner? I mean,
No,
as
the buyer agent.
Yeah, the buyer agent can do that. And the code is if they get it beforehand, then their timeline begins the night of ratification or the day of ratification. So let's say they ordered a week ahead of time and they get it. And then you write an offer that says 3-day review or 5-day review or whatever it is. Your countdown doesn't start till the date of ratification.
Oh, okay. So that's still
Even if you've held on to them for a week, your countdown doesn't start till the date of ratification.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. I'm full of all sorts of nebulous information, people. It's just ridiculous.
Anthony, doesn't that paragraph in not the most recent update, but last year, it has two separate provisions. It says, is my recollection, if resale documents are delivered before ratification, then it has blank for the review period. And then it has, if it's delivered after ratification, blank. So there's two different blanks in there to address ratification period, depending upon whether the documents are delivered before ratification or not. It doesn't, your point is 100% spot on that doesn't start until ratification, but the contract does address that before and after delivery.
Right.
Before and after ratification delivery.
Right. Let me pull in a new one here. I'll show you what he's talking about, y'all. Here it is. My screen is not letting me get access to my my share button here.
Anthony, I have a contract up. I can share screen if you can't.
Great. Go ahead.
All right.
And then go down to page 4.
Okay. Oops.
And
are you guys seeing the contract here?
Are y'all seeing that, y'all?
Yes.
Okay.
Can y'all see I can make it bigger.
Yeah.
Right. So go to not page 4.
It's
Paragraph
clause
8.
Right.
Paragraph 8.
Yeah.
So what you're seeing is on the dates here, where it's like after the indented paragraph, the provisions of, and there's a code there. And you got little I, double I, and triple I, triple one, whatever. So the first one, little I, is dealing with the fact of what you just brought up. What if the buyers receive the HOA documents before they even write a contract? You can, let's say until 9 p.m., X days of data ratification. Okay. If seller's brokerage delivers a real estate certificate to buyer's agent or notice before data ratification. So I get it on February 1st. I've had it now for 13 days and we ratify tonight. Now my deadline starts. Okay. And then how much time do I have? That's whatever we negotiate. And so that's what that blank is for. Once you ratify, you have X number of days, 3 or 4 days. And then 2 is until X number of days after receiving them if we ratified. I ratified today, and then I finally get them, and now that triggers the waiting period. Okay? And then number 3 is if I never get them delivered, I can pull out at any time. Does that make sense, y'all?
Yep.
Good. Great. Okay. Anything else?
Nope.
Okay. I think that's it. Y'all have a happy Valentine's Day.
And you too.
Or good deed day or whatever you're calling it these days. So, appreciate
Well,
it.
Anthony, one
Yeah.
quick question when you.
Yeah.
Thanks. Take care.
Yeah, go ahead.
So I had my first condo listing in Falls Church. I did tell my client yesterday, to go ahead and order the docs because we're going to go live on March 6th. So, I was going to, reach out to the condo, association to just kind of get info on like, where can I hang the lockbox and what are the rules for signage or open houses or, marketing to residents, et cetera, et cetera. It's okay for me to be reaching out to them with those kind of questions, right? Or is that like should the owner be doing that?
No, yeah, I see what you're saying. Yeah, I reach out to the condo association all the time as the buyer agent. I need this is what's going on. And most of them that are professionally operated, they get it and they're trying to work it. Yeah. That's okay.
Okay. All right.
Good question.
Just wanted to make sure.
All right. One last thing here. I want to invite you guys out. Where's my, here we go. Going to go back out to here. Y'all can see that. I've launched my school on school.com. School is spelled SKOOL.com. Makes you wonder what the heck's going on over there. But this is my, if you want to do a link with it with the screen there. What it is like everything that I'm doing as far as another type of questions and stuff like that. Did y'all get that? Okay, good. So I'm going to go to the site itself and show you what I'm talking about. And then let me share my screen there. Okay, let's go to here. This is the school screen. It's Broker 911 network. And what you linked to will probably take you to this page, which the school has a community. And this is where postings go. So if you post something, it goes here. Think of it like Facebook without all the ads. It also has a classroom. I've got one class up there, writing your first contract. When new agents come on board, I send them to here. It's got the members that are here and then the about page. But the community, what I like about this is like, let's say I've got a bunch of entries here. I've been building it to get a bunch of entries, but let's say you got a question on home inspection. You just type in just inspection, and these are all the postings about inspections. Let's say you got a question about voiding something. These are all the articles on voiding. So if you got a particular, I don't know if I have anything on HOA. Yeah, there's a, HOA. So everything that I'm dealing with and posting on YouTube, the challenge I have with my videos is if you don't know where it is, you don't know where it is. Okay. Whereas this one, yeah, I did a video on that. Just search void and you would go to this one and there's the video link. But it's also got a text answer if you just want to answer to the question, that kind of thing. So come on by, join it if you would like. And I'll be happy to let you come in. I don't accept everyone. I've gotten stuff from people from across the country and overseas, and I can just tell these are not real people that want to talk real estate. It is going to encourage you to download the school.com or the school app. I would encourage you to do that because then you get notifications when something's been uploaded. And then there are communities here that you can go to join. So like I belong to these communities here. Schoolers is about the school itself. And then these are all places that I've joined, a couple of realtors and YouTube people that I'm part of their communities. But it really creates a closed portal. Whereas, Facebook is wide open. Every Tom, Dick, and Harry can comment on your question or something, or even in a group. This is really just right here in this portal of Broker 911 network. So would love it if you came in. Yeah.
Sorry, I don't see it. Is it just called Broker 911 Network? Because I put that in the search bar on Facebook.
Yeah. Well, it's not Facebook. This is school.com. This is not a Facebook group.
Oh, okay. I thought the blue
Yeah.
thing was Facebook. Sorry.
Yeah. No, so I'll just put this in the chat, and you guys can click it and go to it, and then you can request to join. It's membership only, and it's free. There's a paid version which I really haven't launched yet, but right now everything is free, and it'll always be free. And then I'll have some stuff that's on a higher level for those who want to pay for it. But anyway, I'll be posting my answers, like all the stuff we talked about today. I will put together a posting of the answer to these questions, so that at any time you can come here and search for answers. It's kind of like the brain trust of Anthony.
Very good.
Okay. So that's what I got. Anything else? Thanks so much.
Thank you, Anthony.
Take care, y'all.
Thanks, Anthony.
All right.
All right. Bye-bye.
Have a good weekend, everyone.
Good deal.